Harden, MPP for Ottawa South, Maria Sardelis, and Sherry Van de Ven from Access to Seniors and Disabled Advocacy Group. We also have here with us in the room Lance Livingston and Ron Vanderwalker from the Congress of Union Retirees of Canada. So thank you everyone for being here. We've called this press conference to draw attention to the very serious problem of the abuse of the Trespass Act by the operators of congregate living spaces, such as long-term care and group homes. We are seeing far too often that when family members raise concerns about the living conditions of their loved ones, facility operators retaliate by misusing the Trespass Act and banning family members from entering homes and caring for their loved ones. This is actually an illegal use of the Trespass Act. Only the occupiers of the units themselves have the legal right to decide who can come into or be blocked from coming into their living spaces. Unfortunately, police have not been trained to know the correct use of the Trespass Act. And unless family members recognize that the Act is being misused, they are intimidated into believing that they cannot visit their loved ones. If they do know that the Act is being used illegally, they wind up having to go to court to challenge both the care home and the police. Sadly, this is not new information. In 2021, my colleague, Joel Harden, the MPP for Ottawa Centre, put forward a motion to address this abuse of the Trespass Act, and I'm going to ask him to tell us about his motion and its status.
Well, thank you, Lise. Good morning. It's really a succinct way to describe it, Lise. The people of Ontario operate under a system of laws. Those laws are meant to ensure everybody's well-being. But there is a minority of rogue care home operators that believe they are not only the kings of their castle, but they can separate family members, powers of attorney, and visitors from folks in those facilities. So what we did with Vula's Law, inspired by the great Maria Sardelis, who I'm going to introduce in a moment, is confirm what the law actually says, that people have a right to see their family members, and that care home operators should not be abusing the Trespass Act to keep people separated from their loved ones. And the legislature agreed. Members of all caucuses agreed. But we know this is still happening, and that's wrong. But the only reason Vula's Law was adopted was because of the great Maria Sardelis, who's with us today, who is an indefatigable advocate for people in crisis and people in need, for her own mom, Vula. And Maria, honestly, it is a great honor to once again share this table with you. And I was wondering if you could just pick it up, talk about the advocacy that needs to be done.
Yes, thank you very much. And I can't say I'm great. I'm just doing my best because my love for seniors and persons with disabilities has grown immensely, especially given the fact that I see now how often they are separated from one another. And especially children, disabled children. No one loves them like their own mother. No one kisses and touches and holds them and gives them that contact comfort like their own mother. And to be separated from them by trespass, an illegal act, is abhorrent to me. So, thank you for the introduction. I was number 3 of 4 people trespassed within a span of 8 days from City View retirement in December 2018, just before Christmas. I was trespassed for 316 days from my mother's home. My mother had just been diagnosed with dementia, and she's got a rather acute hearing issue. So in effect, communication was cut off between us. My mother's in her 90s. Her biological clock was ticking, but even quicker, her cognitive clock was ticking even faster. The Trespass to Property Act. I have never seen a better written act. It is well written, it is well adjudicated, it requires no amendment or special interpretation. The act itself and our courts have ruled there's only 2 grounds for trespass. You can be trespassed if you are not the invited guest of the occupier, or if you don't have legally conferred authority, so you don't have power of attorney, legal guardianship, or substitute decision maker. That's it, 2 grounds. Nothing in the Act talks about behavior, and our courts have ruled behavior is not a grounds for trespass. I have those rulings. And who is the occupier? Well, according to the Act itself, first paragraph, and our court's interpretation, the occupier is the person in physical possession. Physical possession, still 9/10 of the law. So there's two types of ownership, property ownership. You're either the deed possessor, as you are in your own homes, your permanent residences, or you are physical possessor. And in multi-occupancy residential facilities like apartment buildings, retirement homes, long-term care facilities, group homes, co-op housing, there are multi-possessor occupiers living and occupying that space. Unfortunately, on-the-ground enforcement of the Trespass to Property Act is not in alignment with the Act itself or with our court's interpretations, which raises compelling arguments for human rights code violations and Charter of Rights violations. When it comes to the Charter, when an individual, without the authority of law, is forbidden from engaging in their normal freedoms to come and go as they please, like others in society, that person's charter rights are infringed. When a care facility with police compliance is issuing a direction to an individual to leave their loved one's home or be arrested for trespass, that facility operator and the complying police officers have assumed control over the individual's liberties, movements, and freedom of choices. The Trespass to Property Act does not provide for the usurping of our rights and freedoms. People raising concerns about poor care, similar to what our military reported during the pandemic, are being unlawfully trespassed without due process of law. Trespassed for life in many cases, like myself. Not even the pandemic barred people for life from facilities. Care facility operators will allege an advocate is being intimidating, harassing, engaging in very dangerous behavior. And if that's true, it's a criminal code misconduct and it should be charged accordingly. There are options, there are legal options to remove someone who is being, according to the script that these homes use, intimidating or harassing. Pursuant to the criminal code, they can charge with disturbance of the peace. Sounds like their behavior to me. It's disturbing the peace. Mischief, or they can enter a peace bond. Thankfully, proof of the alleged threatening behavior must be provided in order for charges to be laid. Let me tell you how many advocates would love to hear what proof and evidence there is of their trespass, because we don't get it. Facilities have also cited occupational health and safety as a grounds for trespass. Guess what? Our courts have ruled otherwise. Our courts have said occupational health and safety governs the relationship between employee-employer in the workplace. It has nothing to do with the relationship of visitors or the general public. So what do we need to address these egregious issues? Additional police training for sure on the Trespass Act and the definition of the word occupier, that one pivotal word that if they just got that meaning and aligned it with our court's definitions, this would all go away. And we need enactment of Motion 129 Boulah's Law, which in its essence is just asking for police enforcement of our Trespass to Property Act in alignment with our courts. The other thing that has to happen is public awareness, and like you brought up, Lise, people don't know, and I want that message out there, and that's what the tireless part for me is that people need to know, and then police need to know so that they're finally on the same page. I also want to thank Unifor. On September 6th, we have two of the members here. On September 6th, they had invited me to attend a National Retirees Committee meeting, and they passed a resolution. 110 delegates voted unanimously, representing 70,000 retirees, and they said, yes, Motion 129 Boulah's Law, enact it forward, give the direction forward, because we want the Trespass Act to be enforced in accordance with our laws. Finally, Joyce Egan wrote a book, and this is the question we all ask. Is advocating a crime? Pick this book up, get past the introduction of the characters, and then be prepared to be horrified You can't put the book down, but you're too scared to turn the page because you will hear and read what the system is. And this is in terms of the disabled persons, but it's the same problem with the system for long-term care and retirement homes. Be prepared. What she put in words will shock you. So thank you, though. Lise Bourgeois, Joel Harden, I can't thank you enough. I know Wayne Gates is on board, and I know Chandra Pasma, too. Thank God, wherever you are. I can't thank you enough for stepping up for seniors and disabled persons.
Thank you so much, Maria. Really, you've done so much to bring this issue to everyone's attention. We all appreciate it very much. I'd like to pass the microphone to Sherry Van de Ven, and if you would share some of your experiences.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the invite to be able to share what I have suffered and my mom suffered while she was here. My mom and I were both victims of the misuse of the Trespass and the Long-Term Care Act, or long-term care home. The owner denied me entrance at the home that my mother occupied. The police were called. And as the police approached me, I asked them why I was denied, and they said it was the owner's right to be able to invite and allow people to come and go. And I thought my mom was the occupier of the home, not the homeowner. With that, the law says we must look after the elderly and respect them and see and advocate for them and see that they're not being abused. But I was denied that because I couldn't get back in to see Mom and speak for her and advocate for her. I then felt like I was the criminal. I was the criminal for advocating for Mom. What gives that long-term care home the right to be the judge and the jury with no evidence of nothing? I was not charged with anything. My mom cried, to see me and her. Our rights were denied to see each other. To me, the home was the one behaving like the criminal, not myself. Rights which the Trespass Act and the courts protect and uphold were just not there for me or my mom. Advocating to me is not a crime. Advocating should be praised and encouraged. And how can the Trespass Act, which protects our rights to be used, treat us like criminals? Like and it seems to me that the more you get to speak with everybody, like Maria and I come together, I've got phone calls of the same situation in the area. We all have the same script. We are a danger. We are a threat. We are intimidating. But yet we've not ever been charged criminal. They just are allowed to put us out. And unfortunately, it declined my mother's health real quick because I spent hours with my mom. She'd become very lonely. I was there 7 days a week with Mom, and I wasn't there for her anymore. It was just a sad time for me, and it's one thing with a dementia. You can embrace that disease, I guess, and make the best of it. But it was more suffering to me to see what my mom had to live through and be separated with. That is a scarring, very much scarring, what goes on in these homes for a lifetime. So, so I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and speak and share really a sad story for our seniors today. And it wasn't just my mom, it's going on every day.
Thank you so much, Sherry.
Thank you.
And we do know that this is happening to hundreds of families, and the harm is very, very serious. It's very painful, and it significantly lowers the standard of quality of life for people in homes and for their family members who are on both sides. People are in a state of permanent distress.
That's right.
Today I will be asking for two things from the government. The first is to follow through on their 2021 commitment and have all care homes post in publicly visible spaces the rights of family members to raise concerns about the care of their loved ones without the fear of being illegally trespassed. The second is to require that all police officers in Ontario be informed of the correct and incorrect uses of the Trespass Act. In addition, this afternoon I will be introducing my first private member's bill, co-sponsored by MPP Lindo, that focuses on the need to create an independent advocate for older adults. Elders and their families, as well as those who act as caregivers, deserve an advocate, independent of government, to act in their interests, advise, and make recommendations to improve what are often systemic challenges facing older adults. We timed the introduction of this bill to complement the issues raised today about abuses of the Trespass Act, because those abuses often affect older adults either as caregivers or as people receiving care in congregate settings. The Trespass Act, though, also impacts younger people, people with disabilities at any age, parents of any age. And for this reason, we are holding a rally today, a support rally at noon out front of Queen's Park to address the abuse of the Trespass Act. I'd like to open the floor now to questions from the media.
I'd like to learn a little bit more about what you hope the private members bill will accomplish.
Well, we know that there are many issues that seniors are experiencing, from lack of accessible spaces, lack of ability to get in and out of buildings, this abuse of the Trespass Act, problems with care in different settings, frustrations with having to use private home care because there's not enough funding for public home care. We've seen that. I've received many emails about that from older members of my writing. And there's really no place for people to go to voice their concerns, apart from coming to their MPPs. We have a Minister of Seniors Affairs, and we have a critic like myself. But really, those are often moving targets. There are political issues involved with, what the seniors, the Minister of Seniors can do, cannot do, can say, cannot say. So we really need somebody who is independent of government, who is able to hear those concerns from people in the moment, in real time, and then figure out how to advocate and press the government to follow through on those issues.
I think BC has a position like this. Was that an inspiration?
Yes. And, I'd like to say another inspiration and somebody we lost was the advocate for children.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was such an important role in the, before this government came to power. And that position was cut. And we know what incredible work was done by that advocate, Erwin Ellman. So we are really looking, I'd love to see that position come back, but we also know that it's really important for older Canadians to have access to that kind of independent support.
Also, what I would be interesting to hear is the one thing I have heard through my advocacy group over and over, there is such a pervasive culture of fear in these homes. They are terrified. The seniors themselves are terrified about speaking out, and so again, it comes back to either you're threatened with trespass or you're trespass. You trespass one person, word spreads, and happened, and I heard personally from people in my mom's previous home, they wouldn't say a word. They'd fall on the ground. They wouldn't get call button answers, and they wouldn't say a word because they were so afraid. And I remember there was a gentleman with me, and I heard a story from a senior and said, and she was talking, then she says, well, look what happened to you. And I hear that, and this culture of fear. I was talking to an advocacy group in Calgary, and they said the same thing, culture of fear. And I've never figured out, and I don't know if I want to walk that road of how to address that these seniors live in fear. And this is not a way to live the last of your days. Because yes, you feel vulnerable, you feel invisible, nobody cares, and trust me, nobody cares, as it turns out. But that culture of fear, no one should have to live that way. And I'm hoping that group can, your new advocacy, they'll hear about it and maybe figure out a way to address that.
And nobody wants to be labeled that troublemaker. Like, it seems when you come forth and tell, you know, what really is going on, they people just don't believe it today. Like, it's just, and so if you come from a small area, it's like, you're the troublemaker. You've created the problems. And it's not true.
No.
Well, but also, Sherry, God bless the troublemakers.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Because this wouldn't be here today
That's right.
Right.
were it not for the work you're doing and Maria's doing and Lisa's doing.
And
I
unfortunately,
hear
you
you.
know, Sherry in her small town is like the pariah, you know, because she brought forth issues that nobody wanted us to hear. No one wants to back up. And I've heard that from other small towns. And it's not right when you advocate. Maybe if you give something to say, you know, and especially when the rest of the country is saying the same thing, yeah, you got something to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank people for coming today, and thank you so much for the work that you're doing, for the advocacy that you're doing. Thank you, Joel, for having brought this forward in the last Parliament. And
Blame Maria.
right,
I guess I'm the troublemaker.
all right. And with that,
Glad to have her. Glad to
yes,
have her.
absolutely.
I don't know what I would have done without her. I really don't.
Yes, I think it's called making good trouble.
There you go.
I like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.